In today's video, we're diving into a shocking story about an employee who was fired for defending controversial figure Andrew Tate. But the plot takes an unexpected twist when a surprising turn of events follows. Was this decision fair? What came next for this individual? Stick around to hear the full story, including all the details that you won't want to miss.
It all began on an ordinary day at the office. The employee, a mid-level manager, had always been someone who didn't shy away from discussing controversial topics, especially when it came to freedom of speech. That afternoon, in a casual lunchroom conversation, the topic turned to Andrew Tate, the former kickboxer turned online personality who had become the center of heated debates over his outspoken views on masculinity, success, and gender roles. Without hesitation, the employees shared their thoughts, defending Tate's right to speak freely and expressing their admiration for his unapologetic stance on life. They argued that Tate's views, although controversial to some, were rooted in a desire to push individuals to think outside the box and challenge societal norms. While some at the table were uncomfortable with the subject matter, the employee insisted that people should be allowed to voice opinions even if they weren't in line with the mainstream narrative. The conversation, which had started innocently, soon turned into something more tense. Several colleagues voiced their strong disapproval of Tate, calling him misogynistic and dangerous for promoting toxic behavior. The debate became heated, and the atmosphere in the office began to shift.
Though the employees' intentions were to promote healthy discourse and free thinking, the conversation left a mark on their colleagues. In the following days, whispers spread through the office, and the once friendly work environment became subtly divided. Some co-workers started to avoid the employee, while others seemed to side with them, creating a sense of division in what had always been a harmonious workplace. As the rumors about the employee's views spread, the tension continued to build, and it was clear that something needed to be done to address the growing discomfort. It didn't take long before the Human Resources Department was involved. HR had received complaints from several employees who felt that the defense of Andrew Tate's views was creating a toxic environment. The complaints weren't just about the conversation itself, but about the larger implications of allowing such a viewpoint to go unchallenged. HR initiated a series of meetings to discuss the matter, questioning whether the employee's behavior had violated the company's policies on respect and inclusivity. It was a tense time for the employee, who had never anticipated that a simple conversation would escalate to this level of scrutiny. The employee, feeling blindsided by the growing backlash, tried to explain their perspective. They argued that they had only intended to foster a dialogue, encouraging others to think critically and independently. They reassured HR that they hadn't meant to offend anyone, nor had they intended to create an uncomfortable work environment. However, HR's stance was clear. The company had a zero-tolerance policy for any behavior that could be seen as creating a hostile workplace, and the employee's defense of Andrew Tate's views had clearly crossed that line. The issue was no longer about free speech. It was about maintaining a company culture that was inclusive, respectful, and sensitive to the diverse backgrounds and opinions of all employees. In a formal meeting, the decision was made. The employee was to be terminated. The justification was simple, yet harsh. Their actions had caused a disruption in the workplace, and the company could not afford to let such issues fester. The employee was devastated. They had always prided themselves on their ability to express their opinions and engage in thoughtful discussions, but now they were being punished for doing exactly that. The dismissal came as a complete shock, leaving the employee feeling betrayed and confused. They had worked hard to climb the corporate ladder, and in an instant, all of that had been stripped away. The termination was abrupt and final, with no room for negotiation or appeal. The employee was escorted from the building that same afternoon, their personal belongings packed into a box. As they left the office, they couldn't help but feel a sense of disbelief. They had defended a viewpoint they believed in, only to find themselves on the receiving end of a harsh consequence. The idea of losing their job over a conversation about a controversial figure seemed absurd to them. They had always thought that standing up for one's beliefs was a virtue, but in this case, it had cost them everything. The weight of the situation was heavy, and as they walked away from the office for the last time, they were unsure what the future held. Would they find another job? Would they ever be able to speak freely again without fear of backlash? Days passed, and the employee struggled to come to terms with what had happened. They began applying for new positions, but every rejection email felt like a reminder of their fall from grace. Just when they were starting to lose hope, they received an unexpected phone call. The voice on the other end was from a recruiter who had been following the story and wanted to offer them an opportunity. The recruiter explained that they had been impressed with how the employee had handled the situation and admired their courage to defend their beliefs, even when faced with adversity. The company they represented was looking for someone with a strong sense of individuality and the ability to think independently, qualities the recruiter believed the employee demonstrated in spades. The new opportunity seemed almost too good to be true. The company was a startup with a very different culture from the one the employee had just left behind. It was a place that valued open discussion and encouraged employees to share their opinions, no matter how controversial. In fact, the company prided itself on fostering an environment where free speech and independent thought were celebrated. The employee was intrigued, and after a few interviews, they were offered a position with a competitive salary and a chance to build a fresh career. The surprise was almost overwhelming. After everything that had happened, this unexpected opportunity seemed like a lifeline, a way to turn the page on a painful chapter. The new role not only offered the employee a fresh start, but also a sense of validation. They realized that standing by their beliefs, even in the face of harsh criticism, had opened doors they had never imagined. The company's values aligned with their own, and they quickly realized that they had found a workplace where they could be unapologetically themselves. The opportunity was a reminder that sometimes the most difficult moments can lead to unexpected rewards. The employee was determined to make the most of this new chance, knowing that it was more than just a job, it was a new beginning. With this new role, the employee could finally breathe a sigh of relief. They had not only regained their sense of purpose, but had also proven to themselves that standing up for what they believed in was worth the risk. While the past few weeks had been a whirlwind of confusion and hardship, the employee was ready to take on the future with a renewed sense of confidence. In a world that often seemed to punish people for speaking their minds, they had found a place where their voice was not just heard, but appreciated. Just as the employee was beginning to come to terms with the unexpected job loss, a strange twist of fate entered their life. It was an ordinary afternoon when the phone rang, interrupting their routine. At first, they thought it might be another rejection email or a call about a job they had applied to, just another reminder of their current misfortune. However, the voice on the other end of the line was far from what they expected. It was a recruiter, and they had a surprising proposition. The recruiter explained that they had been following the news surrounding the employee's controversial firing. The recruiter mentioned that they admired the employee's ability to stand firm in their beliefs, even when faced with significant backlash. The recruiter had been impressed by how the employee had defended their views on free speech and individual expression, even in a workplace that didn't seem to value those principles. The recruiter's company, a fast-growing tech startup, was searching for someone with exactly the qualities that the employee had demonstrated. They were looking for someone who wasn't afraid to speak their mind, someone who could challenge conventional thinking, and someone who could bring fresh, bold perspectives to the table. The recruiter was candid. They believed that the employee, despite the controversy, was the perfect fit for this environment. At first, the employee was stunned. They weren't sure if this was real or just some sort of bizarre mistake. They had been fired only days before, and now someone was reaching out, offering them an opportunity that seemed to align perfectly with their values. Could it be that all the drama, the heartache, and the disappointment had led them to this? The employee listened carefully as the recruiter laid out the details of the new job, a position with a competitive salary, a dynamic and innovative team, and a culture that celebrated individualism and free speech. It was the polar opposite of what they had experienced in their previous job. The recruiter encouraged the employee to think it over, assuring them that the position was theirs if they wanted it. But the offer was more than just a job. It was an invitation to a new way of thinking and working, a chance to join a company that didn't just tolerate differing opinions, but actively sought them. The employee felt an immediate sense of relief, but also a tinge of disbelief. How had things taken such a sudden and unexpected turn?
The offer was so out of the blue that the employee decided to take some time to think. They reflected on the past few days, the pain of losing their job, the confusion, the hurt, and compared it to the opportunity in front of them. They had always believed that the ability to express oneself freely was paramount, but they never imagined that standing firm on such a belief would lead to a new career. It felt like fate, or perhaps destiny, had intervened. A few days later, after several conversations with family and friends, the employee made the decision to accept the offer. They signed the contract with a sense of excitement and nervous anticipation. This new chapter in their career felt like a much-needed breath of fresh air, and they were eager to start this new journey with a company that not only accepted, but encouraged their views. As they prepared for the first day, the employee felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just a job, it was a chance to redefine what work could mean in a world that sometimes felt overly rigid and censorious. Their first day at the new company was a revelation. The environment was a stark contrast to what they had experienced before. The office was open and welcoming, and the culture was centered around collaboration and creativity. What stood out most, however, was how different the approach to free speech and diverse opinions was. In meetings, employees were encouraged to challenge ideas and offer alternative perspectives. It wasn't just about agreeing with the status quo, it was about fostering meaningful dialogue, even if it made people uncomfortable. The employee felt a sense of liberation, knowing that they were working in an environment where their voice mattered, where they didn't have to second-guess every opinion they shared. What struck the employee most was the leadership team's approach to controversy. The CEO, a forward-thinking individual, spoke candidly about the importance of embracing differences, both in terms of opinion and background. There was a palpable sense of freedom in the air, a belief that true innovation could only come from encouraging the exploration of all ideas, even those that might be seen as divisive. In this new workplace, the employee was able to speak out without fear of being shut down or ostracized. Instead of facing punishment, they were met with open-mindedness and respect.
As the days turned into weeks, the employee quickly adapted to their new role and began contributing to the company's growth in ways they hadn't anticipated. Their fresh perspective and willingness to take risks started to pay off. They helped the team brainstorm innovative solutions to complex problems, challenging old ways of thinking and pushing for new approaches. The employee became known as someone who wasn't afraid to ask difficult questions, someone who was willing to stand up for what they believed in, no matter the consequences. In this new environment, those qualities were not only accepted, but valued.
It wasn't long before the employee gained recognition within the company. They were promoted to a leadership role, overseeing a team of like-minded individuals who shared the same passion for challenging the status quo. The promotion was a testament to their resilience, their ability to persevere through adversity, and their unwavering commitment to standing up for their beliefs. The employee had gone from being fired for expressing a controversial opinion to becoming a leader in a company that valued the very qualities that had caused their downfall in the first place. Looking back, the employee realized that the path they had taken was anything but ordinary. What had started as a simple conversation about Andrew Tate had snowballed into an incredible journey of self-discovery, personal growth, and professional success. The firing, which had initially felt like a devastating blow, had ultimately been a blessing in disguise. It had led them to a company that not only supported their freedom of expression, but also provided them with the tools and opportunities to thrive. The experience had taught the employee an invaluable lesson. Standing up for one's beliefs, no matter how unpopular or controversial, could lead to unexpected rewards. In a world that often seemed to silence those who dared to think differently, the employee had found a place where their voice was not only heard, but celebrated. As they continued to grow in their new role, the employee realized that the greatest reward of all wasn't just career success. It was the ability to remain true to themselves and to inspire others to do the same.